you do it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome to our evening or morning or afternoon. So it's good to see everyone again. And I think I have a real treat for you, especially for those people who have been seasoned Feldenkrais practitioners. I think I'm going to bring something a little bit novel of way of looking at tonight's lesson. And most of you may know that I am interested in reflexes and restoring reflexes. And as I was preparing for this week's lesson, I thought, oh my gosh, this is, and I don't know how Feldenkrais knew this. It just marvels to me how he knows what he knew back in the day in neuroplasticity and neuroscience. I mean, just goes to show you the genius of him. But this lesson has to do with the reflex that's called Pubo-Ocular Reflex. Pubo, okay? Pubo meaning the pubic bone, okay? Pubo-Ocular meaning eye, reflex. And the short of this reflex is that it's saying that eye position is going to influence pelvic position. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because what happens is we want our center of mass to be able to be carried in such a way that it supports our head and allows the highest level of function, all right? So we're going to explore how the eyes and the pelvis connect together through a very familiar, I would say, iconic movement. And it has to do with this little gem right here. All right. Now, if you're old, in my generation, you recognize this as a clock. There are some young people who they see it as a clock, but they're not really sure about the time. You know, it's like the digital, right? So we're going to use the numbers on the clock, particularly 12 and 6, a little bit towards 3 and 9, but a little bit more towards 10 and 2. And I want to show you how we're going to organize this clock, because this lesson takes place in a seated position, not just in a chair. Although you could do it on the chair, you could do practically the whole lesson on the chair and adopt it for seniors. We're going to be doing it from a seated position on the floor. All right. So I want to give you a sense of orientation. So if you're in the seated position, all right, this would be the pubic bone, and then this would be the back of yourself. So you would be actually taking the clock and sitting on the clock from this position. Okay. Now, when you go to lie down on the floor, then as you see here, again, you're lying on your back. The 12 is associated more towards the head, and the 6 is more towards the feet or the pubic bone, just to kind of give you that sense of language and orientation. Notice though that we're going to pay very close attention to the triangle bone in the pelvis. It's called the sacrum. And the sacrum has literally a base that goes horizontal and two stems that come down to the tip. The tip of the triangle is the tailbone area. The base of the triangle is up here near the lumbar, or what you would know it as the waist. Okay. So when we move tonight, we're moving across the length of this whole triangle bone. All right. And it's curved. So I want you to kind of keep that in your mind. All right. It'll be helpful so that you don't over articulate or move too far. And again, we're taking a look at what's called the pubo, in case you don't know how to spell that, pubo-ocular. And it's a reflex. And Feldenkrais takes us to and through the opportunity to really have our eyes and our pelvis work more harmoniously together. Okay? So let's start first from a seated position in your chair, wherever you're at, or on the table's fine. That's just fine. Feet are on the floor. We're going to start with a little bit of a reference or a test, retest. So at the end of our session, we can see what kind of changes occurred. And I want you to start to pay attention as though that you would reach an arm forward, just straight out in front of you. Just make sure your arm is okay and you reach forward and reach out as though that you wanted to take someone's hand. They're reaching, they're giving you something. So it's heading straight out from you, not out to the side. And then you bring your arm back again. Notice for yourself that you can actually bend and straighten the elbow without moving the torso, right? But what if I said, I want you to really extend your reach as far forward as you can? Can you do that for me? And notice if it doesn't carry your pelvis forward as well. All right. All right. Now, I'm going to put my side to you. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to lead with your head as you start to reach. Lead with your head as you start to reach the hand and see if the pelvis doesn't tip more forward, or what we call rotating a little more anterior, or that the pubic bone goes down toward the seat. All right. Good. Let that go. And so you can start to assess what's your confidence level of being able to reach forward and not feel like you're going to fall forward off your chair. So remember, we did our confidence level, 0 being not confident at all, 10 being I've got this, Carol. And then we had a low, medium, high. You know, low was 10, 20, 30, medium was 40, 50, 60. And then 70, 80, 90 was high confidence. All right, good. Now let that go. Bring yourself to standing. Standing on 2 feet. Begin to let your head lead that same motion as though that you had a kind of quality of like we call it a pecking, or that you were going to reach forward with the head. You're not looking down. And see if you can notice, you can keep your hands down by your side and notice what your pelvis starts to do. Does your pelvis go forward or does it go back? Yeah, it starts to go back, doesn't it? Can you feel how if the head is going to go forward, the pelvis is going to go back? That's part of that reflex. Now notice, is the tailbone sticking out a little bit or is it tucking underneath your legs as that head starts to protrude forward? Or another way of saying that is, do you have a little more incurve in your lumbar spine as you do that? And you go slow enough so you can see and sense whether or not the pelvis is tilting. Yes, that's it. Can you feel how the tailbone kind of presents itself a little bit more, or there's a little bit more incurve as you move forward with the head and then you come back? All right, let that go. Now, come to lie on your back. I remember when I was doing my training and they said those words, I like had an immediate, I'm going to lie on my back. I thought just even saying those to myself, I come into a place of calm, rest, pleasure. Lie on your back. And we'll start with the legs long and your arms down by your side. And we get a chance to sense how our partner lines are lining up today. Our 2 legs, our 2 arms, and our vertical cardinal line. And as you scan your body, I want you to start to get a sense of what parts of yourself are actually lifted from the floor. That place behind your ankles, your knees, the place where your buttocks and your thighs meet. How about your lumbar spine, your low back area? Mhm. Coming up between the shoulder blades, behind the neck, the parts of your skull that are lifted from the floor. Mhm. And let yourself be drawn to that triangle bone, the base of your spine. And the base of the triangle bone, the more horizontal portion of the triangle bone that moves from right to left, it's quite wide up near your low back. And then since the point of the triangle moving towards the tailbone. Mhm. Now, I need you to roll through your side and sit up so that your knees are bent and the soles of your feet are touching one another. So the legs or the knees fold out like butterfly wings. And that you rest your weight on your hands. Your elbows are relatively straight. And I want you to find a position where the soles of your feet, the distance from your heel to your pubic bone, I want to find that great place for you where it's not too far away from you, it's not too close, so that the knees can open up a little bit. And when you prop yourself up on your hands, if you will either prop with your fingers facing behind you, or if you're on your fist, that's absolutely fine. Just turn your fist out so that your thumbs are more outward rather than your fist rolled inward. Yeah. Now, for some of us, like it's really hard to maintain that position, right? The knees, it's kind of very hard. So if that's hard for you, you're going to want, this is how you know that, oh, this is best for me to do it on the chair. So if I'm going to swing myself around and do it like in the seated position, I would have to scoot forward to the edge of my table and put my hands behind me. All right. Now, allow yourself to roll through your sacrum as though that you can tip the sacrum so that you're rolling more towards the base and the tailbone. So as you do that, I want to keep your elbows, right? Your elbows will start to relatively keep them straight. And what will start to happen is that something, that's right, your shoulders will start to shrug a little bit, right, towards your ears. And if you let your head hang down as though that you were going to look at your pubic bone as your tailbone is lifted or you're going towards your base. And then as you tip the sacrum towards the lifting the base, that's right, you can lift the head. So another way of saying that is how can you withdraw this massive torso away from as though that you're going to fold yourself through the middle and the front and look down at the tailbone and then expand the torso in the front. And naturally, a lot of people will look down towards the pubic bone when they fold in the front, and then they'll look up towards the ceiling, right? When they expand the torso. Good. Now let that go and just lie on your back a moment. We don't realize just how much effort it takes when we're on the floor to have our weight suspended behind us. So we'll take about maybe 4, maybe 5 passes, and then we'll always be taking just a little bit of rest, a little bit of refreshment. And throughout this lesson, we're thinking about letting the torso retract in such a way as that it can bow and be rounded as we move through the sacrum and through the tailbone, the rocking of the sacrum and the tailbone. All right, bring yourself to sitting up again. Lean on your hands behind you, soles of the feet together. Let the knees hang a little wide. Find that sweet spot where the feet are at a nice distance. And think of initiating from the end of the breastbone. Withdraw that breastbone away. Let the head hang down, coming onto the base of your sacrum. That's right. Now, as you begin to reverse and let the base of the sternum flower out, still allow your eyes to look down, your face and your eyes to look down. Yeah. So that the head can still sneak a peek down in between the legs. And you feel how the flowering and the expansion of the abdomen, sometimes we get overzealous in that every time that the belly rounds and flowers, there can be a little bite in the low back area. Sometimes we done this lesson many times, or it's new for us, and we overextend the belly and we overarch the back. Good. And let it go and lie back on your back. So I want to help us find something really important. I want us to be able to recruit our diaphragm in such a way so that the compressive forces of the lumbar spine, of the facets, can actually expand and open as we rock that sacrum. So I'm going to have you draw your knees up and your feet are standing. And a couple of times here, just begin to initiate the rocking of the pelvis, but do it only through the sacrum. I mean, obviously, the pelvis is tilting too, right? But can you map out that place of the tailbone, moving through the tailbone and moving up to the base, and then reverse it? And as you're doing that, you can start to get a sense that the the head or the chin can start to move as well. So that as you rock the sacrum towards its base, that the chin can kind of come down in the direction of the throat. And then as you rock towards the tailbone, it returns back. Good. Now pause for a moment. Put your hands, both of your hands, on your lower abdomen. Now, I'm going to have you through the nose. I'd like you to breathe in long and low and slow through your nose. And you can start to fill, F-E-E-L, your abdomen rise. And as you exhale, it falls. Now, do that a couple times. Some people would say that you're sending your air down here to fill, F-I-L-L, your abdomen up. But we're not really filling our abdomen with air, are we? No. The air only goes to probably the level of the end of our breast or the breastbone. Those are your organs moving and expanding out when you inhale. The diaphragm is pushing the organs down and out. And that just happens to be a fleshy area. So that has a lot of availability of the organs to rise and expand outward. And you can feel when you do that long, low, slow breath that it could have the potential to change how the contact of the sacral base and the low back. That when you breathe in long and low and slow, that the sacral base starts to lift from the floor and you can tip a little bit towards your tailbone. And then as you exhale, long and slow, you can return the base, sacral base back to the floor. Now, stop, rest for a moment. Now, when I talk about recruiting the diaphragm, we're going to recruit the diaphragm so that it opens the lumbar spine, it opens the facets in back. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pull the abdomen in just a little bit, all right? And then let it go. Now, that's very different than now really pull your abdomen in. Some people would say suck your gut in, right? Have you ever heard that before? And you try to make your tummy really flat. Let that go. So give me just a little tone where you feel your abdomen pull away from the contact of your fingers a little bit. I'd like you to keep that tone. And as you keep that tone, begin to let that air draw it in through your nose, long and low and slow. Keeping that tone. That's it. Keep the tone. You'll get to the end where you can't bring in any more air. You'll pause and then you'll reverse the motion, letting the air escape. And you can keep the tone in the background. Yeah. 2 more times. Have a little tone. Keep the tone long and low. And it's almost that since the organs can't move forward and out, they have to move towards the sides and back, right? Can you feel that there's more possibility of letting the organs push into places that normally have been hidden and not available? Good. Now let that go and roll onto your side and rest. You know, we are wanting to move in a new direction, but sometimes we start off in the same old way. So when we begin to rock the pelvis, rock the sacrum, and feel this movement across the sacrum, oftentimes we just let our lower abdomen, let it all hang out, if you will. And we're wanting a new direction here. And when we have a little tone in our abdomen as we make that rocking motion, we have the ability to proportionally start to lengthen across our entire spine, an arc of movement that can allow a different exploration of carriage of the head in relationship to the pelvis. Now, roll on up to the sitting position. Lean on your hands behind you. Knees out. Find your perfect place for your heels. You might find that it's a little bit easier now just to even sit there. Like it's something has changed within how heavy you are across your hands. Now, can you give me a little tone in your abdomen? Just a little, just withdraw. Thank you. And now begin that movement of rocking across the sacrum, rolling back and forth through the base to the tailbone from 12 to 6. And as you look down, let your face hang down as you withdraw your torso. And then you expand the torso. And let your eyes and your head continually just stay looking down so that even in the expansion of your torso, you're not really lifting your head. Your eyes can still have that downcasted. See, this is what I mean about we're wanting a new direction, but we're starting off in the same old way. We're wanting the eyes and the head to be down. Very different for us right now. Now begin to let go of that abdominal tone and begin to let your eyes withdraw the torso and let your eyes look down at the pubic bone. And I want you to direct your weight, or you're shifting your pelvis into that left side as though that the left knee could go a little closer down to the ground. As though we're going to tip our pelvis over to the left, and then we withdraw it back. And you notice the right hand is going to be helpful here. So the right hand can start to push. That's right. You can straighten the elbow. You can push the pelvis over a little bit. And intentionally letting the knee, the left knee, the outside of the knee rock toward the floor. And let your eyes look past your thigh, past the knee. And as you start to come back, bring your eyes back through the knee, the thigh, and right back to the pubic bone. That's right. Staying to letting the eyes look towards the left knee. The eyes are going toward the left, past the knee. We're not changing over. That's right. That's better. Good. Now let that go and lie on your back. Already you can start to sense that your cardinal lines may be changing. Those spaces that were lifted from the ground may not be as prominent. And it's such a strong habit, especially if we've been doing these lessons for a while, to change over our head and look the different directions. But stay with me tonight. Listen, we are wanting to move in a new direction. All right, bring yourself to sitting again. Feet together, hands behind you. Withdraw your torso. Withdraw your torso and look down at your pubic bone. You're heading back towards your base, the base of the sacrum. Now, from this base, let yourself shift over into the right pelvis. So you shift into the right pelvis. The right knee is going to angle down, and let your eyes continue to go from your pubic bone through the side of your pelvis into the thigh, past the knee, out in front of you, as though that the eyes can look past the knee. And then rock your pelvis back and forth. And each time we're moving, it's almost like a semicircle, so that you move across the base of your sacrum and then towards the tail bone on that right side. So it's not, that's better. That's it. The eyes looking, the head looking past. And the next time you find yourself coming back to the center, pass over to the other side, as though that you're drawing your line across your sacral base, and you go over to the left side. And the eyes then can look towards and past the left knee. And then you retract your eyes and your base. Expanding, folding, withdrawing the breastbone, and then allowing the tip of the breastbone to actually reach toward the knee. Good. Last time to the right. And then let it go. And then roll yourself down through your base and lie on your back. And we're still going to continue this rocking motion through the sacral base and the tailbone, but instead of propping ourselves up on our hands, we're going to prop ourselves up on our forearms and elbows. So we're going to bend the knees, and we prop up on our forearms and our elbows, and we still hang the knees out to the side. And of course, you need to find this place where the feet can be at a nice distance from the pelvic floor, so that the knees hang wide, it's comfortable. And begin to rock the sacrum again towards the 12 o'clock number, allowing the base to reach to the floor, and then rocking the sacrum, that's right, towards the tailbone, towards 6. Good. Now, I want you to exaggerate this movement of every time your sacral base comes to 12, let your chin really drop and let your eyes see your pubic bone. And then as you tip the tailbone, let your eyes look in the direction of the ceiling. The head will lift a little bit, and you move towards the ceiling, see the ceiling, and then rocking towards 12, see the pubic bone, as though that you could sneak a peek of the tailbone that's rising up. Good. Now, could you do that in the opposite direction, or what we call out of phase? So another way of saying that is, can the eyes look up towards the ceiling as you're coming into your sacral base? Yeah. It's for some of us is discombobulating. And then go back again the way it was before, as the pelvis goes towards 12. Sacral base looking down in between your legs, on the coccyx looking up towards the ceiling. Good. Sacrum initiating that. Is there an element of pleasure in your transition here. Now let that go and let yourself rest again. So you can see perhaps that doing this lesson on the floor with your legs in this position and the angles of the hips and the torso, this is a higher level of difficulty than doing it in a chair, right? Still can be done in a chair. You would still have thank you, Ruth. You would still have the feet, the soles of the feet together, and your hands would be behind you on the chair on the buttocks, behind the buttocks. And you would be rolling across your sit bones, but still having that quality of being able to expand the breastbone and the torso in front, flowering it, and then withdrawing it. You can imagine that taking place. Good. All right. Roll yourself up again. Prop yourself up on your elbows and forearms. Feel yourself leaning, finding your place. And from this constraint of a position, can you begin to carry the pelvis over to the left side, as though that you roll through your sacral base, and you will allow the left knee to move a little towards the table. And as you come back, you really are coming up the side of the tailbone. Remember that triangle, and into that left base. Letting your head and your eyes turn to the left as the knee goes down. The left knee, that's right. So if it feels like your head is so heavy that you need to rest, then you are a person who would need to probably do that in the chair. Good. All right. And then now have a go of letting the pelvis move towards the right, and letting the right knee lower down, letting the torso balloon forward. And then as you withdraw the torso back, that's what allows you to come back into your sacral base. Good. All right. Let it go. Lie on your back. Rest a moment. Or your side. Another really good self-care strategy is a wedge-shaped cushion for some folks. And you put that wedge-shaped cushion behind them, and that allows them to raise the floor up in such a way that it's easier to support their upper body, especially when the sternum or the breastbone has not reached its level of potential in flexibility. All right. A little bit thicker than that. Yes. Wendy will demonstrate something. She's got like a wedge-shaped triangle on the replay. If I can spotlight her. Okay. Let me see if I can do that. See if you can see Wendy there. Right? That's more available to you, right, Wendy? It's just like, oh, thank God, I'm not really working so hard. So now I'm not working so hard to hold my body up. I might be able to feel how these parts are related. And right now, if you just turn even 45 degrees the other way with your fist, right? Turning your elbows out, just yep, just a little bit. That's fine. All right, now once or twice, here we go. Let's begin to show me the base and rocking of the sacral base. There you go. Withdrawing and expanding in the breastbone. That's more available for you, more proportionally, right? And you can feel yourself mapping out your sacral base to your tailbone. And now begin to let yourself move the pelvis through the right side of your base and over toward the right, and let the right knee drop. There you go. Feel how now her whole self is moving. And the left hand can help you with that movement. And then now begin to allow yourself to track across the wide base of the sacrum and go to the left, and let your right hand help you a little bit more. And here's this tipping of the pelvis, the rocking. Letting the breastbone look over the left knee. Good. And now every time you do that, she's getting tired, so I want her to rest now, right? So good. Let that go and lie on your back. Mhm. I'm just going to replace some of the spotlights. Good deal. And now prop yourself up on your elbows again. Mhm. Good. And now again, let your legs be wide. Same position. So now each time you begin to rock across the base of your sacrum, going once to the right, going to the left, I want you to begin to let your head follow the rocking of the pelvis. So as you let your eyes look to the right, as you tip your right knee down and the pelvis goes, and then let your eyes follow up your thigh across your pubic bone and to the left as you look beyond that left knee. And then can you start to do that in opposition, so that every time the right knee goes down, you're going to start to look off to the left knee and past the left knee. So you're moving your eyes and your head opposite of the knee that is going toward the floor. And what if I have you keep your head in the middle? That's right. Keep your head in the middle and just let your eyes look. For me, I found that was so difficult. I wanted to move my head and eyes. It was very hard for me to differentiate, really spot my eyes going away from my knees. That's right. Good. Now let that go and bring yourself to lie on your back again. And then prop yourself back up on your elbows and your forearms, leaning heels together, knees wide. We're almost done with this. Now begin that arcing of the sacral base again. So it's almost like a semicircle to me, as that you're taking your sacral base over to the right knee drops. You take it over to the left knee drops. And you're allowing yourself to expand to your capacity in the torso. Allowing your eyes to and head to track across the knees. And I want you to begin to close your left eye. So you actually close your left eye and you're doing this same movement, but you realize how really keep your right eye open as you allow the right knee to go down and on the right sacral base, coming across the middle to the pubic, down the thigh, looking off to the left. Left. Good. And then when you're in the middle, pause there. Now, close the right eye. Let the right eye close. You're going to begin that same sacral base, rocking of the knee, expanding the torso, retracting the torso, but the emphasis is on the sacral base, moving across it. The other eye is closed, and notice how that is for you. I mean, both eyes are obviously moving and looking over the knee, but it gives a different field of vision. Nice. Good. Now, open your eyes, letting your head be in the center, and just let your eyes do that movement. Eyes tracking the knee as it's lowering down, as you're moving across the sacral base. The knee lowering, the eye following the knee, both eyes. Good. Let it go. Let your legs be long. Recalling the 5 cardinal lines of movement. What's your vertical line? What's your vertical line like? Observing your breath, the lower abdomen, moving in, moving out. So we're going to stay on our back, but we're going to put our legs in that same position as before, the soles of the feet together. And you'll have to find for yourself where you want to put your heels and the distance from your perineum or the pelvic floor. The knees hang out to the side. And let your hands be on your abdomen. So a few times like this, I want you to breathe long and low and slow and feel how the abdomen raises and it lowers. And as you let the breath go, let it go a little bit slower so that you can feel this transitional point where the sacrum actually can rock. And as it begins to rise long and low and slow with that inhale, you feel your lower back or the lumbar spine coming off the floor. You exhale. Good. Pause. Can you give me a little tone in your abdomen? So as when you draw that air in, you're not expanding the whole abdominal wall. So draw the air in a little bit deeper, longer, lower, and see if that can allow the expansion along the sides, allowing the organs in the back and allowing the spinal elements of the lumbar spine to feel free. That's it. Nice. Good. Now, let that kind of breathing go, but keep a little tone, if you will, in your abdomen. And can you begin to let the sacrum begin to map along its base to the triangle again, so that you begin to allow the sacrum to rock, the tailbone lifting, the base lowering, the base lifting, the tailbone lowering. So there is this rocking across. That's right. And you can feel that as the tailbone goes down, the knees kind of change their relationship. As the base goes down and the tailbone goes up, the knees want to come a little bit together. Good. So you're keeping a little tone in the abdomen so that proportionally something in the breastbone can become a little bit more available. The head rocking. And can you make that movement a little faster, as though that you're imprinting from the base to the tailbone, that direct line? Good. Almost like a little jiggle wiggle. Good. That's it. And then now stop and let your knees come together. Good. And then lower one leg down and the other leg down. Rest. Still lying on the floor like this, drawing your legs up in that same position, soles of feet together. Further away, closer to your pelvic floor, finding the most comfortable, neutral position. And we're going to come back to rocking along that sacral base, that line, but this time I want your eyes to track so that when your eyes are going to look down in the direction when your tailbone is going toward the floor, and you will lift your eyes when you begin to rock the pelvis towards the base. Looking down as the tailbone touches the floor, and the eyeballs looking up. Now you can keep your eyelids closed, but it's the eyeballs looking down, as though that you could see the pubic bone, and then eyes looking up as the base goes up into the floor, the base of the sacrum. And then let the rocking go and only do the eyes only. And notice how quickly actually you can let the eyes flick down to the pubic and then back up, and down to the pubic and back up. And then now leave the eyes and let the sacral base and tailbone begin to rock back and forth. See how that can go a little bit quicker, please. That's right. A little pulsy, a little rocky. Now, if you Try to use your eyes again. Notice how the eyes have to slow down the movement or the speed of the movement, doesn't it? For some of us, it's hard to get a sense of the eyes and the tailbone, and going towards the base. Good. Now, let that go. Bring your knees up together, and then make them long, legs long, resting. Now, this is quite a very different movement I'm asking. And well, I should say it's not a movement at all. Some of you might be able to do it, but it's not necessary that you do. But I want you to think about this possibility. Just even think about it. You don't even actually have to do it because it is quite difficult. I want you to think of your right eyeball. I want you to think of letting the right eyeball move up and the left eyeball move down, as though it was going to look at that pubic. And then you bring both eyes together. I mean, obviously, they're not wired like that, right? But I want you to think of right eyeball up, left eyeball down. Right eyeball up, left eyeball down. Good. Pause. Can you reverse it? Can you let the left eyeball move up and the right eyeball in the direction of the pubic? You have to go slow at first in this thinking, don't you? One side may be a little bit more dominant than the other. Left eyeball up and the right eyeball down. And if you were going to use little movements, could you do it just a skosh faster, just a little bit faster? For me, that was quite discombobulating and even in my mind thinking. Good. I'll let it go. Now look down with both eyes. And then reverse and look up with both eyes. Good. Now let your eyelids open and let your eyes, both of them, look down at the same time and then up and then down. Good. And begin to rock the pelvis, rock the sacrum, I should say, the sacral base to its coccyx with your legs long like this. Good. And pause. Now, bring your legs back in that same position as before, soles of the feet together. And begin to rock the pelvis along its length of the sacrum. You can really feel that sacrum is absolutely curved now, right? Your eyes are closed. But your eyes can track the base moving, the tailbone moving towards the base or the 12 o'clock. You can look down, your eyes towards the pubic bone. Going towards 6, the eyes can look up. And you can even reverse that motion now. Good. Now, interlace your hands, place them behind your head. I want you to think of this middle part of your body, that vertical cardinal line that goes from your genitals through the navel, through the middle of the sternum, the chin, in the middle of the nose, the eyes, the eyebrows. the heels. And I want you to see if they kind of line up, the eyes to the mid vertical cardinal line in your heels. You don't have to move them, it's just fine. Now, I want you to, not very far and slow, but not very far. Can you slowly start to lift both feet and the legs a little tiny bit from the floor and then set them down again? Good. You notice that you might have to bring your heels a little closer to your perineum or your pelvic floor. Maybe that might be helpful. Not sure. Good. All right. Now lift the head, leave the feet and lift the head a tiny bit and bring it forward towards the pubic bone and then bring it down. You don't have to lift it very hard. And then lower the head and lift the legs. And lower the legs and lift the head. Feel how each time of the lifting can the sacral base move more in contact with the floor. So even as the heels are lifting and the legs are lifting, allow the sacral base to lift too. Excuse me, sacral base to go into the floor. Thank you. Yes, that's it. Much better. Much better. Good. Now let that all go. Let your legs be long, your arms down by your side, and just scan that cardinal line. Mm-hmm. Now, one of your takeaways today, I'm hoping, is that when we talk about activating the diaphragm, it's and using that in such a way that we can allow there to be expansion elsewhere in our internal organs and our fascial planes and in our spinal elements. The take-home message here is that we're not sucking in the gut all the time. I'm not asking you to bring in a lot of abdominal tone, but we need some type of self-treatment strategy in order to withdraw the abdomen away from our hands if we're touching ourselves, and to allow this movement of the sacrum and the torso, allowing this arc of mobility to be restored within the joint so that the nervous system understands that you have some availability in your lumbar spine that you didn't have before, that it can back out and have some mobility and not be so jammed into that sacral base. So that's why we were using a little bit of the abdominal tone with the long, deep, and slow inhale. Good. Now, roll yourself to sitting, and then you're going to bring yourself to standing. And then as you're standing there, you want to try a couple of times of just allowing your head to move forward in space and start to get a sense if the pelvis can actually start to move behind you as the head moves forward, that the pelvis sways behind you so that you were going to reach for someone. That's it, Madeline. Yeah, good. All right. Now let that go. What if you were to sit down again and allow yourself to actually reach forward as though that the head and the hands would reach forward. You can do one hand, both hands, however you did that. And notice that as the head and the eyes are moving forward, you're moving over the sit bones. The pelvis tips a little bit. We call that a forward or anterior. I want to get this on film. That's right, Gail. Good. That's it. Good. Let it go. Can you imagine, or can you give yourself a confidence level in your ability to reach forward and maybe not hurt your back, right? You can reach, you can grab that. Feel the weight go into your legs, take whatever it is and bring it back. Super. Good. Let that all go. Take a moment while I remove all these spotlights. Good. Good. I think we're back. Good. Oops. All right. Just taking a moment. A little bit of a different lesson. I think one of the things that I remember from my training is that each new habit, and I wrote this down in my margin, each new habit begins with a feeling of unfamiliarity. Each new habit begins with a feeling of unfamiliarity, this ability to sense and track across our sacral base, not our waist, not the lumbar spine, but the sacral base, to start to bring that image into ourself. That's right. Starts to have a different kind of quality. So it's not just a withdrawing and expanding or protruding the abdomen. I was trying to really move away from that familiar feeling of letting the abdomen bellow out and then you withdraw it, right? I want to take the information and bring it back behind you where power lies in the sacrum. Good. Now, I'm just going to pause for a moment, and if you have if you'd like to make a few comments, you're more than welcome to do that. Or any questions? And if you look down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, it's called reactions and raising of the hand. And if not, that's perfectly okay too. I'm not married to a lot of discussion. So good. A different kind of lesson, wasn't it? We rarely think about the pelvic ocular reflex. We think about this one called the vestibular, where our head turns different than our eyes, right? Cervical ocular reflex or a vestibular gaze. But yeah, but this one, that one, no one really talks about. Good. Okay. Well, that's the name of this lesson, Restoring the Pubo-Ocular Reflex. Okay, fantastic. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, Carol. Very nice lesson.
You bet. You bet.
Loved it. Thank you.